Okay, so that's going.
Continue one to the other, ongoing, or it's like different topics every week?
It's different topics every week, but the way that I'm structuring it is that I do have a method to my madness. And so by design, I am building the classes on the previous one. So in other words, if you're participating from the beginning, and that could be in person, that could be that you go back and you listen to the recordings from the first recording, everything is numbered in order. And so you'll begin to see the succession. But that the way that I'm doing it you're not dependent on having had to hear the last class in order to participate and hopefully gain something from the current class, if that makes sense. Okay. Okay. All right. So we'll see if anyone else pops in while we go. But I think in the meantime, since everyone is here, and we'll get started. So thank you all very much for coming. We've got our second weekly Shiur, Baruch Hashem, that we're back here together. And this is Bakol, Mikol, the weekly Shiur, to really help give chizuk and address pertinent information that is relevant to Jewish women who are serious about wanting to really gain some chizuk and take what they learn here and bring it forward into the world where they are in their own lives. So I'm very much looking forward to that. Okay. I think the lady who's coming in person is here. One second. Okay. All right. So I always like to begin. I want to make sure I'm recording. So I'm recording on the Zoom. I'm recording on the audio. We are in full motion now. Okay. So welcome everyone as you're coming in. Welcome. I encourage you to post in the chat where you're calling in from. It's always nice to see that Jewish women are representing all over the world who have interest in learning and growing, and we welcome all of you. Okay. So I'm going to start. There's a kind of a outline that I have for every class, and I'm trying to stick to that so that you guys get used to that and get into the flow, whether you're listening to the audio recording or whether you're in person live on Zoom. So I always like to begin with a welcome. And hi, come in, Julia. Nice to see you. Come. Have a seat. I want to begin with a welcome, and some thank yous, because I believe that no matter what's going on, you always have to have a level of hakaras hatov for the people around you who are helping you. So I want to thank the Taurus Avigdor Foundation, who, once learning about my Shiur and its connections to Harav Avigdor Miller, that they have been pro bono promoting my Shiur, which I think has really helped people to learn about it, and B'ezrat Hashem, that the word should continue to spread. I want to thank Rabbi Yosef Mizrahi, who is one of the largest, machzik b'tshuva around the world right now, and he also has been promoting my shiurim. I'm very grateful to him. I also want to thank Liat Avrahami Amidfar, who was helping to promote it in her chats, and she's very active in the Shuva congregation here in Pico, in LA. And so those three sources have been a tremendous help in getting the word out. And I encourage all of you, there's no cost here. It's really just a function of time, taking your time to either participate live or be able to hear the recording. So whomever you think might benefit from it, please share, and we'll bring more women with us on this journey together as we go. I want to make some dedications for our learning for today. So for a Refuah Shlema, I would like to add Daniel ben Chana, Yonasan Shmuel ben Dvor Charna, and Hanan ben Hesi, and also Batsheva bas Sorachaya, and for Shidduch Aviva bas Bracha. If you have someone that you would like to dedicate the learning for, please put it to the chat now so that we can all see that person's name, indicate whether it's for a refuah. Julia, did you have someone?
Benjamin Adam ben Stephanie for a good, wise decision.
What is it?
Benjamin Adam
Ben Stephanie for wise decision making.
Yes.
Okay.
And Chava
Simchat
Bat Kira Sarah
for
peace at work and Parnasa.
For peace at work and Parnasa. Excellent. everyone should have a refuah shlema that they need, and to be blessed with the all the resources of whatever they're asking for, whether it's a shidduch, whether it's a refuah, whether it's a Yeshua, whatever it is that we need. We are asking Hashem in the schus of our learning together today that He will, Be'ezat Hashem, bless us with that. Okay, so feel free to please continue to add in the chat whomever you need to, who you would like to dedicate the learning for, and Be'ezat Hashem, Hashem will answer our prayers for that. Okay, so a little bit of housekeeping before we get into it. I asked you before, if you can, post in the chat where you're calling in from. That's always fun to see. I also invite anyone who was here last week, if you had any follow-up questions, you can try to post them in the chat, and if we can get to it, we will. Although it seems to me, based on last week, they're always the shiurim are very full, and I want to be respectful of your time. If you have to go at any point, please don't think twice about it. Go, you do what you need to do. You can always catch up on the recording, and there's no offense taken if you drop out early for whatever reason you need to, okay? So that is available to you. You can always catch up after. I want to just remind you about access to lectures and shiurim. There is the Google Drive. I'm going to put it in here again. It's linktr.ee, kind of spelled weird, Dr. Ozair, /Dr. Ozair. And if you go there, it gives you the links to all of the Google Drive. It has all of the shiurim notes. As I mentioned on the first time, I'm really running this shiur like a college class. So all of my notes, all of the shiur notes, all of the handouts, everything you'll find in that Google Drive, as well as the recordings, the audio recordings, and also the Zoom recordings. The Zoom file is labeled as for women only, but you can see the Zoom file of recording and also the printout of the chat that corresponds with the course. So all of that is there for you. But the big news is that one of my rebbeim told me I must have a YouTube channel. Even though I don't want to have my face on there or anything like that, he explained to me how to do it. And so now I officially have a YouTube channel. You can access that through this link. It will show you Dr. Ozair on YouTube. Click on it, takes you to my YouTube channel. You can subscribe there, and then anything I post on there, you'll get, a notification. I'm not so wise in the ways of YouTube, but my understanding is that's how it works. And you can see everything. I post all of my there, not just this shiurim, but also all of the events. Everything is posted there. The audio is. Okay, just a couple of calendar notes before we get going. And again, my notes will be in the Google Drive. So if you have any questions, you can always go back, print them out, and you'll see. So we have, Be'ezat Hashem, our shiur today. Next week, Wednesday will be the day after Rosh Hashanah, Be'ezat Hashem, that Mashiach should come, and we're all going to be busy with that, and we will not have a need to meet. But in the event that the time is going to present itself to us to do it, I will be doing next week a brief shiur on Shabbos Shuvah. So it's not going to be the traditional shiur I'm doing where I'm bringing all these sources and stuff. We're really just going to hone in on Shabbos Shuvah so that we can come together on the heels of Rosh Hashanah and really make the most out of Shabbos Shuvah before we're going into Yom Kippur. The following Wednesday is October 5th. It is Yom Kippur, so Gemar Chatima Tova. Should be an easy fast for everyone. The following Wednesday, October 12th, there's going to be no shiur. It's Sukkot. People are usually very busy in Chol HaMoed with their families and their kids and other things going on, so I don't want to compete with that. So enjoy your Sukkot. It should be a beautiful Chag, and we should be celebrating and dancing that Mashiach has arrived. And then, when we're ready, if we're ready, that October 19th, the following Wednesday, after all the Chagim have finished, we will plan, Be'ezat Hashem, to resume our weekly shiurim. And who knows, maybe the world will have changed by then for the better, and we'll play it by ear. But that is the tentative plan based upon everything that's currently happening in our world today. Make sense? Sounds good? Excellent. Okay, so that's all the housekeeping. All right, in terms of sources for this week's shiur, and these are all listed again on the shiur notes, so you're welcome to grab them when we're all done here. So I'm going to take directly from the Chumash, Sefer Vayikra, Parshat Kedoshim, Toras Avigdor's Sefer Vayikra, Parshat Kedoshim. It's the Ben Ishai family edition. Pirkei Avos, the introduction, Toras Avigdor Weekly for Nitzavim and Rosh Hashanah, the Nevi'im, Yeshayahu, chapter 42, Pasuk Vav, a book called Tuesdays at Dawn, Stories and Advice from Rebbetzin Batsheva Kanievsky, as told firsthand by Ruth Atias, Leadership Theory and Practice, 7th edition by Peter Norhaus, and Organizational Culture and Leadership by Egerschein. So this week I've pulled from a multitude of sources. Some of them are directly out of my doctoral program. My doctorate is in Organizational Change and Leadership, and all the rest are Torah sources. So we'll see how this goes. We'll set out on this journey together to explore the topic when we get there. But before we do that, those of you who know me and those of you who don't will come to know that I am a little bit obsessed with tzaddikim. I light a crazy number of tzaddikim candles before Shabbos every week, and I love learning about tzaddikim. This week I tried to pick one tzaddik, not possible, because we have the hilulah of 3 giant tzaddikim this week that I feel can give us all chizuk and wisdom, and so I'm going to give you a little bit of information about each one of them. I'm going to tell you when their hilulah is so that you can light a candle for them, and in their schus you ask Hashem to grant you whatever you need. And of course we should ask for Am Yisrael to succeed as we enter into Rosh Hashanah and the judgment days ahead. So the first tzaddik I want to mention to you, his chillah is actually today. I have a candle lit for him in the kitchen. And this is the Tana, Rabbi Elazar. This is the son of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. He born and died in Eretz Yisrael. He's buried in Miron, in the exact same location as Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. So if you've ever gone to Miron to visit Rabbi Shimon, you have also visited Rabbi Elazar, who was literally buried right there, his kever right there in the same room. If you recall, these are the 2 tzaddikim who were hiding in the cave for 12 years, came out, wound up burning everything up with their kedusha, and then were sent back by Hashem into the cave for another year to say, okay, chill out, what'd you do? Come out here to destroy my creation with all of your judgments and your kedusha. They went back, and when they came out after the year, they found that they were greeted by people who had tremendous yiras shamayim, and so they were allowed to come out and stay out. Rabbi Elazar was significant in helping his father to author the Zohar. Who knows, everybody is familiar with what the Zohar is. The Zohar is the primary, predominant Kabbalistic texts. So when you hear that a Rav is a Kabbalist, they are well versed in mystical Judaism and in the secrets of the Zohar and how that supports the Torah as we know it. It is written in the Gemara that in Masechet Sukkah, Rabbi Shimon said that if he and his son Rabbi Elazar and Melech Yotam, who was one of the kings in our lineage, if he had them all together in one time, that he could erase all of the gezeros on Am Yisrael and immediately bring Mashiach. So we should hope that those 3 tzaddikim get together in their way, whether it's in Shamayim or otherwise, so that they can help to remove all the gezeros from Am Yisrael and bring Mashiach. The second of the Gedolim that have a hilulah, which is actually tomorrow, the 26th of Elul, the 22nd of September, is Rabbi Chaim Pinto Hagadol, the original Pinto Rebbe. He was the chief rabbi of Mogador in Morocco. He was born and passed in Morocco, 1749 to 1845. He was also a tremendous Kabbalist, meaning he was well versed in the ways of Kabbalah and mysticism. And he was known for his creation of wonders and miracles, both while he's alive, and also they say that if you go and visit his kever and you daven for what you need, that people see Yeshuos. People really mamish see Yeshios. And of course we know that we still have generations of the Pinto family, that this tzidkus and this dedication to Am Yisrael and serving Am Yisrael in the way that they do has been passed down from generation to generation. Their righteousness, Bezat Hashem, continues to bless our world and bless Am Yisrael. And I know there are a rebbeim of the Pinto family really all over, and we even have, I know, at least one in Los Angeles here who has his own kahal. The third tzaddik that I want to mention, his hilulah is September 23rd. The 27th of Elul is Rabbi Natan Adler. He was Mamash Gadol Hador, born in 1741, died in 1800, did not live a very, very long life. He was born in Frankfurt. Today it's Frankfurt, Germany, but at the time it was called Frankfurt of the Holy Roman Empire. So times change. He was a tremendous Talmudic scholar as well as a very renowned Kabbalist also. And he suffered as a result of his interest and kind of viewpoint about Kabbalah and his involvement with that, because he was on the heels of the whole Shabtai Tzvi fiasco. Right? So essentially, because they were scared, here's another one going to come with his Kabbalah, and he's going to tell us, things that are not rooted and grounded in the Torah that we know, that he was really at some point put in harem, and he had a very difficult time. But even with that, he had tremendous students. One of his most famous students is Chatam Sofer, Rabbi Moshe Schreiber, among other Gdolim. So he was also a giant, an absolute giant. So I encourage you, and in the schus of these three tzaddikim and their yahrzeit this week, that we should be successful in this learning, and we should ask that it bless us, and that they go on our behalf to Shamayim to say, hey, look at your daughters, Hashem, look at your benos Yisrael, and look how they're taking this seriously and learning that we should be meriting through their righteousness, hopefully protection and inspiration at the highest levels to serve Hashem. Good? Good stuff? It's good stuff. Light candles for tzaddikim. They love it. It gives them a big chizuk in Gan Eden. And then they know your name. And God willing, in 120 years, when you go up to Shamayim, I've heard stories that when you have honored a tzaddik in your lifetime, even if it's for a glimpse, they come to say Hakaras Tov. They're masters of Hakaras Tov. They come to say thank you for honoring them and remembering them in this olam while they're up there in Gan Eden. Be'ezad Hashem. Pretty cool stuff. All right, last shiur. Those of you that were in this past shiur, just 2-3 minutes. Who can do a recap for me? Either if you were here live or you heard the recording. Can somebody just give maybe a couple snippets on what we talked about last week? Who wants to volunteer? Danielle, you were here. Mia, you were here. Julia's here. Patricia, I know you were here. Just throw something out. Sarah, anybody? What was the main topic?
The main topic was thoughts.
Thoughts, exactly.
How our thoughts affect what we say and what we do.
Exactly. So we learned about thought and the idea that it's incredibly crucial to actually think about thought. And to understand as a Jewish woman that everything that we experience, every human being, but in particular because we're Jewish women, we need to think about it in that context, that everything begins here, begins in the mind, in between the ears, in the mind. What we think about is the root level of everything that comes from us. So how we think is the foundational piece of how we move, breathe, act, live in this world as a human being, and in particular as a Jewish woman. Because we know that as a Jewish woman, we have additional responsibilities. We have additional obligations that we have to live up to if we're committed to a Torah life. Yes, so the tzaddikim, for whoever asked in the chat, all of that is in the class. Everything I just said is in the class notes. So when we're all done, I'll upload the class notes and you can grab it and pull it down, and then you'll have all the details of who and what dates. Okay? Sound good? Okay, so thought is the foundation of our very existence, right? And in particular, how does thought separate us from the rest of creation? Does anyone remember that particular point that we discussed?
That we're the ones that are, compared to other animals, we can think, we can pray in our thoughts, we can safeguard our mind to keep our thoughts pure.
Exactly. So I'm going to repeat what Julia's saying because I'm not sure if you can hear it. Maybe move closer. She's saying that thought is what separates us from all the rest of creation. We're the only creation on the planet, in this olam, that has the power of thought. Animals don't have the power of thought. They have instincts. right? Nature doesn't have the power of thought. It has nature, meaning it has the natural order in which Hashem created it. And if at any point nature behaves in a way other than how it was created, then Hashem is intervening. For example, the splitting of the sea. Right? So the nature of the sea is to be flat. When Hashem programmed that sea at that time, He programmed in that the sea is going to stand and that the Am Yisrael is going to walk through. Right? So that is against nature. That is Hashem intervening. Right? So our ability to think separates us out from everything else on the planet. And we have to understand the power that we have as a result of that. How was the homework? Did anybody actually do the homework? I hope the homework was helpful if you engaged in it. The homework can be found on the Shiur notes from last week if you're interested in going into that. Okay? All right, so now let's dive in to the content. So, the topic for this week is the essence of leadership and Hashem's expectations. The essence of leadership and Hashem's expectations. So as the sources indicated, and again, I encourage you to have your journal out, and if you have not heard the first Shiur, you can go back and listen to it, and you can journal about that as well. You can get into the homework. But it's not necessary that you have heard that in order to participate here. Okay, I'm just encouraging that. So, the essence of leadership and Hashem's expectations. In this shiur, I'm pulling from two primary places. One is my background and my education in organizational change and leadership, and the various roles I've played professionally in my life. And the other is, of course, Torah. The second being much more important than the first. Okay? But I'm going to try to weave them together in a way that's hopefully going to be meaningful and give you some additional tools so that when you go back into your life in whatever capacities, whatever roles you're playing, whether that's in a professional role, whether that's in the home as a wife and a mother, whatever is the role, that you'll be able to apply some of these concepts. So the first question I want to throw out there, I'd like to hear from you, is who can give me some examples of leadership in the Torah? Moses. Who else?
Yosef.
Of course, Yosef HaTzadik. Miriam. Let's get one more. You're welcome. Yehoshua, okay. You're welcome to unmute. You can, even though you're not on video, you can unmute and you can speak, okay? So the Torah is, honestly, might be one of the greatest collections of examples of human leadership. Right? If you go back to the very beginning of creation, we see that Hashem from the very beginning had the idea that his creation of a human being would be a leader within his creation. Right? So even going as far back to Adam and Chava, Adam was above all the other elements of creation. And then when you jump some generations and you get to Abraham and Sarah, so now we really begin to see the pinnacle focal point of leadership, specifically as relates to Am Yisrael. And everything coming down from Abraham and Sarah. All the imot, all the avot, right? When you think about Ruth, the story of Ruth, she's clearly a leader. She's clearly someone who decided she had some kind of leadership thought, some type of leadership sensibility to know that she felt that she had a calling. So when we discuss the idea of leadership, how would we possibly define it? What does leadership tell us? How do we define leadership? I'm taking one of my books now. But before I go to this source and read, tell me, how would you define leadership?
Having a purpose.
Anybody or anything that is inspiring, that is a role model that I could possibly learn from, and learn in a way that I can apply in my own life to make it better.
Excellent. Okay. Anyone else want to build on that?
Having a purpose that you're not satisfied to just be as everyone else. You have some kind of a spark.
You have a spark, you have a drive, you have a pulling, you feel that you have a purpose that you have to fulfill that drives you to kind of push yourself to be in more of a leadership position as opposed to maybe not doing anything. Okay, good. Anyone else want to add to that? Someone you can trust, someone you can depend on. Excellent. For certain qualities of leadership that are necessary. Okay, so I'm going now into a non-Torah book, this college book, okay, about leadership, and I'm going to pull from here certain aspects of leadership as they define it. And then we are going to together work on weaving this into a Torah context. So here they talk about leadership. Leadership is a process whereby an individual influences a group of individuals to achieve a common goal. That's how the industry, right, the non-Torah based industry would define leadership. Okay, now, through Torah eyes, there's one piece of this definition that I wouldn't necessarily argue with, but I would add on to. So we have here, leadership is a process whereby an individual influences a group of individuals to achieve a common goal. Here they're defining leadership as leading a group of individuals. But I would even challenge that to say that according to the Torah way, leadership is not only influencing a group of individuals, it is an individual choosing to influence him or herself. In other words, to lead one's self. So by definition, according to professional theory and practice in leadership, they're defining it as a group. But according to Torah, we know and we see that leadership is much deeper than that. It's not about someone stepping up and saying, I'm going to take this role here and I'm going to guide this group, I'm going to lead this group. No. The Torah is saying you as an individual have a responsibility to lead yourself. In fact, you're not allowed, according to Torah, to put the achrayus of your growth and development onto someone else. You cannot say to Hashem in 120 years, oh, but you know what? So-and-so didn't tell me what to do. Hashem's going to say, no. I gave you seichel. I gave you a brain. I gave you mind. I gave you thought. And I gave that to you for a reason. That's because in the event you didn't find someone who inspired you, you are responsible to inspire yourself. You are responsible to engage in your thought processes and to use your mind and to educate yourself so that you can be your own leader. This is further supported by everything we see in the Musar movement. Everyone is, I'm hoping, familiar with the concept of Musar, right? The concept Rabbi Salanter really created and built on the Musar movement based on the Chovos HaLevavos, right? So the idea here is that we have to take responsibility in a leadership context, regardless of whether we're single, and let's say we don't have a spouse or we don't have a home where we're leading in the home. Even for an individual to take achrayus, to say, I need to lead myself. I need to be dedicated to investigating myself and how I need to improve, how I can engage in Musar, for example, to grow myself year after year. So this is the only place where I would say that my definition of leadership would kind of change a little bit once I put the lens of Torah on top of it. That I don't feel that you have to have a group of people that you are leading in order to be a leader. Now I'm going to bring things later as proofs to kind of support my position on this. But for now, let's just keep going. There's two types of concepts within leadership that are very, very important for us to understand. And this is important to understand both as a professional, completely unrelated to anything having to do with Torah and Judaism, but because we are here to study Torah, I want to apply it explicitly how it applies to Torah and Judaism. In the context of leadership, you have two primary concepts of how leaders engage. Okay? You have something called transformational leadership, and you have transactional leadership. Who can tell me what the difference between those two words might be? It's really important. I don't want you to censor yourself. Just follow your gut. It's pretty intuitive. Think about the two words, transformational versus transactional. Who would like to? Let's start with transformational. What would transformational leadership look like? What would be the outcomes of a leader who has a style that is transformational?
Growth.
Growth in who?
In for the entire group, like a societal change.
Okay, so a societal change, a group initiated change within the whole group. So there's a transformation involved, right? So the root word being transformation. So let's build on that more. How else would we talk about transformational leadership?
So I see it as transactional is just getting you from point A to point B, and very much just very specific outcome that is measured quantitatively, whereas transformational would be more qualitative, and we're talking about people being moved to arenas that probably they didn't even realize they were possible of through role modeling, inspiration, and transformation in ways that are then applied by the individuals in the group, following and being inspired and moved by that transformational leader.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. I'm going to go to the chat here. We have Sarah adding, transformational is something happens, turns you into a leader, or a type of leader. Good. One who affects change versus one who gets through transactions. Excellent. Like a mother. Yeah, nice. Very, very nice. So again, I'll just reiterate. I had asked Hashem to send me the best students, and Baruch Hashem, He did. So I'm very, very blessed, and I'm happy to have you here. So I'm going to read for you the definition here of transformational leadership. It says, the process whereby a person engages with others and creates a connection that raises the level of motivation and morality in both the leader and the follower. So you are all very much on target. The idea of transformational leadership, it's going to impact the leader as much as it is the individuals in the group. And it's going to be the type of leadership that will motivate, inspire, build morale, build skill, build thinking operations, and create an entirely new level of existing. Whether that is a context like a class, like what we're in right now, whether that's in the context of an organization, or in the case of all of us that are Jewish women that are married and raising families, or Jewish women in the context of our greater family, how we lead, inspire, and motivate in our own homes. Okay? So these types of comments that I'm making, I'm leaving breadcrumbs now as we're moving through the Shiur, and you're going to see how they're all going to connect. But I want you to begin to really embrace this concept that even if you do not view yourself as a leader, because maybe you don't have a specific role that feels like one, or because you're limited in the number of people you come in contact with every day, no, I'm here to convey and build my case for the fact that each one of us is in fact a leader in some way, okay? And if you can aim as a Jewish woman, in particular in your home, in your community, and for your own self based on the work that you do in order to build yourself, that this element of transformation, this transformational leadership style is what will help us to grow not only in our own performance as Jewish women year after year, but in our avodas Hashem and in our dveikus Hashem. Because the more we grow into our own sense of being a leader as a Jewish woman, the closer we become aligned to Hashem's vision and mission for us. Does that make sense? Okay, I want to touch briefly on the transactional leadership approach. Did someone have a comment?
Yes, but could you please repeat that again before you go?
Yes, I can repeat it.
Topic.
Yes, so I was saying that if you step in to the role of transformational leader, and again, that doesn't matter whether you're only leading yourself, or you're leading your husband, or you're leading your family, or your community, or your organization. It doesn't matter to what scale you are implementing leadership, that act of thinking of yourself and viewing yourself as a transformational leader will not only bring you to higher levels in your avodas Hashem, meaning your work being a servant of Hashem, but in your devekus Hashem, in your ability to literally cleave to Hashem and help reveal His vision and mission for us as Jewish women. Because I'm going to argue, based on the things we're going to read and the sources I'm going to bring, that is the role that Hashem intended for every single Jewish woman to be a transformational leader. That He has built us through our neshama and through His creation of us to have the skills and the wherewithal and the koach to be transformational leaders wherever He has put us in this olam. And that is actually a part of our primary responsibility and achrayus as a Jewish woman. Does that make sense? Okay, so I want to touch very quickly on this concept of transactional leadership, because I want to create an opposite. I want to create an opposite so you have something to compare it to. So we've just described what a transformational leader can accomplish. They can elevate not only themselves, but everyone around them by acting in a transformational leadership type of a way. Transactional leadership, which you guys defined well, is that it is literally that. It is transactions. The engagement you have with your husband, transaction, chas v'shalom. With your children, transaction, chas v'shalom. Like going to the bank, putting in your ATM card, punching a few buttons and taking out cash. Like going to the grocery store, putting a few items in your cart, going to the checkout counter, paying the lady and leaving. Like going to the gas station, putting the thing in your car, filling up your car, paying and leaving. Those are transactions. They do not promote growth on any level. They are merely, like Mikol said very well, getting from point A to point B. There's no discussion of growth. There's no smacks or tastes of growth. There's no transformation taking place. It's just literally getting the job done at a very basic and superficial level. So ladies, I'm saying to you that one of the things that we need to begin to question, and this can be something you add to your journal, where are we interacting in our lives as transformational leaders? And where are we acting as transactional leaders? How are we engaging with our children? Are we engaging with them transactionally or transformationally? What would be the difference? The difference being, you have homework to do? Amazing. Here's a chair, here's a pencil, here's a paper. Let me know when you're done. Transactional. Transformational? You have homework tonight? Amazing. Tell me, what subject is it in? How did your teacher teach about it a little bit in the classroom today so I have an idea of what you're doing? Okay, amazing. That sounds so interesting. Why don't you sit down right now? If you have anything that you learned from your homework, I would really love to hear it. Or if you need my help in any way, tell me. I'm going to come sit with you and see if I can help to figure it out. Oh, you finished your homework? Amazing. Tell me. Give me one nugget that you took from your piece of homework tonight. Transformational leadership requires engagement. It requires thought. It's time consuming. It's the harder way, not the easier way. But it is the way that ultimately makes the difference for all parties involved. I see people are putting in the chat. I promise you I'm going to get there to read it. Just bear with me. So we all have a grasp now of the difference between transformational leadership and transactional leadership.
May I specifically
Yeah, Julia's going to ask a question. Ask it loudly.
Are you saying that these says either or, so you're either transformational or transactional in a specific event, or are you saying that transactional is also necessary, but we have to try to elevate it?
Yes, it can be both at the same time, meaning there has to be the kid has to sit and do his homework. The question is, how are we going to approach it? The transaction of homework getting done has to happen, but are you going to leave it at that level, or are you going to try to take it to a higher level? Right? Lunch needs to be made. Right? Lunch has to be made. Is it going to be transactional? Take some things, throw it in a lunch bag, close it up, and hang it on the backpack? Or are you going to invite your kid in there to participate in not only what he wants, but having him help to make it? That's transformational. When you teach your child how to make their own lunch, and you slowly begin to give them the achrayus, the responsibility that they have to, let's say, make 50% of their lunch. And eventually you are growing them into a human being who can make 100% of their lunch. And maybe all they need is a reminder the night before. Don't forget to make your lunch. That's transformational. That's taking what could otherwise be a transactional situation and transforming it into something else. And by the way, Hashem gave us, I'm convinced, all of the household chores that we have, laundry and cleaning and getting ready for Shabbos and all of these types of transactionally, involved details, so that we could take them and elevate them to a way how to grow kids. Really, I'm not kidding. I start teaching my kids about laundry from a very, very young age. They learn how to sort, they learn how to fold, they learn where it goes. And I don't do that to be mean. I do that, I make it fun, and I say, you know what? When I'm in a pinch and I need help, they're going to know how to do it, and they're going to get the schus and the mitzvah of helping out their mom. They're also going to be adept adults. They're going to be equipped with knowledge of how to live. Right? So we want to turn transactional into transformational. Make sense?
And is there room for two transformational leaders in a household? Like if you're following what your husband asked, are you then considered transactional, or are you...
Okay, this is an excellent question. So Julia's asking, is there room for two transformational leaders in a house? Meaning your husband asks you to do something, let's say he's also on the page of things to be transformational, and she says, does that mean you fall into the transactional role? Not at all. I mean, I guess it kind of depends on the style of your husband, maybe. But no, it doesn't necessarily mean that at all. Because ultimately, you're all working towards the same vision and the same goal if you guys are on the same page as a couple and as parents. So, transformational leadership doesn't mean needing to make all the final decisions. It doesn't mean needing to be the one that puts the gavel down and says, that's how it's going to be done. No. Transformational leadership means taking all the elements, all the factors, all the moving parts, and being smart. Right? And working within the context of your relationship to build. Does that make sense for everybody? Are there any questions about that? No? Okay, great questions. Amazing. Okay. All right, now I want to throw one other thing in here, and that's the idea of culture. Within every ability to lead, we have to understand the culture in which we are leading. And so in this case, ladies, I want you to consider the culture of your environment. So if you live alone, that might be the culture, the nature of your apartment building, your shul, where you daven, where you're involved, where you're doing chesed work. Or if you're a wife and a mother, it's the culture that you've created in your home. Whether you like it or you don't like it is something that you have to assess. But I want to read you this. For our purposes, culture is defined as learned beliefs, values, rules, norms, symbols, and traditions that are common to the group. So, as you are evaluating your leadership style and trying to step into the role of transformational leader in whatever capacity it is that you have in your life, you're going to always need to take into consideration the culture within which you are working. Now, in our case, as Jewish women, the culture that I believe we are all aiming for is a Torah life and a home, a culture of our home based in the ways of Hashem. So that would mean the cycle of the week, the cycle of the month, the cycle of the year, Shabbat, Chagim, Kashrut. All of this Torah system is a culture in and of itself. And so we can look to that system that Hashem provided for us, and we can find ourselves as leaders within that system. Does that make sense? These are all things for thought. That's why I did the very first shiur on the power of thought. Because without thinking about these things, without engaging and asking yourself, what kind of leader are you? Where are you leading or not leading? In what environments are you leading? We cannot facilitate change, necessary change and growth. So these are all very important things to take into consideration. Okay, moving on from that book. Are there any comments or questions right now about that? We good? Are you guys with me? Yes? Hopefully? I hope you're all with me and didn't lose you. Yes, okay, good.
Yes.
Okay, great. So I have one other thing about where leadership comes in that I read that I just wanted to share from you. This is from the Organizational Culture and Leadership book. It says, leadership is the key to learning. Learning occurs when something expected is not happening and the individual or group feels hungry. Or maybe they feel hurt or disappointed or in some other way discontent. And so as a result of that element within the culture, a leader emerges, preferably a transformational style leader who can infiltrate themselves into the culture and promote and facilitate change and growth. So why am I sharing that with you? Because the more you learn and immerse yourself in Torah ideals, the more you learn and immerse yourself and commit yourself to personal growth and to connecting yourself in your role as a Jewish woman and to strengthening yourself in that role and to understanding that you inherently have a role as a transformational leader, then you'll understand that learning is the crux and one of the fundamental keys and tools that you will use in order to ultimately transform yourself into the greatest level of leader that you can become. The tools and the skills are all there inside the neshama. The neshama came in as a Jewish woman understanding she has a mission, she has a vision, it's aligned with the Kadosh Baruch Hu. All you have to do is uncover it and unleash it and build it. So shiurim like this, reading, listening to Rabbanim, observing. I believe that observation of your environment is one of the greatest tools that you have to improve yourself and help to improve others. Observe everything. Observe yourself in certain situations. Observe your children. Observe your husband, your home. Take a moment and look around your physical space. Is your physical space conducive to being the type of leader you want to be in your home? What things might you have to change or move around or adjust? Is your schedule conducive to being a transformational leader? Gabriella said at the beginning of the shiur that she had to carve time. She wanted to carve time to make space for this shiur. That's the makings of a transformational leader. You have to create the space, the vessel, and the time for what you feel is going to help build you in your role as a leader. Okay, before I move on to the second part of the shiur, which is really HaShem's expectations of us in the role of leadership, are there any other comments or questions?
Yes. So I just wanted to ask you a question. So could you, up until now, could you just brief, like in short, say, about the shiur they just talked about, like briefly, what we should focus on mostly?
The previous one or this one?
This one.
Okay, so we're focusing on understanding that this is the case I'm building, that Jewish women are inherently transformational leaders. We're understanding the difference between transformational leadership and transactional leadership. And I'm bringing in an added element of how that ties into culture. And by culture, I mean for us, the Torah culture, the Torah lifestyle, being a Jewish woman, having a Jewish home, living a Jewish life. And I'm encouraging each one of us to make an observation and an assessment of where we are holding in this role as transformational leader and how it impacts ourselves, our families, our communities, and the world around us. Does that make sense? Did that answer your question?
Thank you.
Okay, it answer your question?
Yes, thank you so much.
Okay, amazing. Okay, fantastic. Okay, now I'm going to take a little sip of water. And now we're getting into it because here comes the good stuff. That was all warm up. Hope everybody is with me. Okay, let me get my sources. Okay, we are starting now with the Chumash. Now, the essence of leadership we've covered. And now I want to get into HaShem's expectations of us as Jewish women. And I want to share with you my personal hypothesis on this subject. Okay? So a hypothesis, for those of you who don't know, is a concept or an idea that a scientist, usually, whether they're a social scientist or a science scientist, puts forth as something that they believe can be proven to be true, and then they go and search to see if they can find things to help support their hypothesis. Does that make sense? So I said before, I'm really a social scientist, right? My whole background in education and in psychology, and I love to observe, so I'm really a social scientist. Are men generally involved in transactional roles, minyan? Oh, this is such an amazing question. The act of all the mitzvos, and this is talked about in so many places in Torah, every mitzvah, every davening can be, in its simplest form, transactional. But do you feel that this is really what Hashem is looking for? And do you feel that this is why Hashem created mitzvahs? What do you think? Why would Hashem have created all of this? Just so that we're busy? He doesn't want his human creation to be bored. We should have something to do. Right? So this is the action. We start with the transaction. But the key behind it is the transformation. The key behind it is exactly what Sarah is saying here in the chat. You have to get the transaction going in order for it to become something that is transformational. You can daven 3 times a day. You can check off the list, I met my obligations for the day. But if it's transactional, you really not accomplished so much other than getting points for showing up and maybe helping to make a minyan. If you are asking a student to write an essay, and they write A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. And they turn it in. Have they written something? They have. They have had a transaction. They put letters on a page and they turned it in. Okay? But have they actually created something? Was it transformational for themselves? Was it an experience of writing? Was it an experience of taking thoughts that they have and putting it on paper and handing it over to someone else? No. It was entirely the transaction of pencil to paper and turn in. When Hashem is giving us these responsibilities, when Hashem is giving us these mitzvot to fulfill, bikur cholim, giving tzedakah, lighting Shabbos candles, hafrashat challah, for men to put tefillin, to daven in a minyan, to study Torah. All of these things, they are transactions. But that is not why He gave them to us. They are designed by their very nature to be transformational. But the only way they can be transformational is if you have your mind and your thoughts turned on, and you have the intention and the drive to connect to your Creator. This is the only way that a transaction can become transformational. And I would argue that that is literally the very core of why we are here. is to take something that is at a transactional level and to turn it into something holy, into something with kedusha, into something with meaning that draws us closer to Hashem and builds us as human beings. I'm trying to look at the chat real quickly. You guys can read the comments in the chat. It's very nice. Okay, so I want to move now into this. I want to present you with my hypothesis, my personal hypothesis. You ready for it? I'm going to throw it at you. All right? Here we go. Get ready to catch. When Hashem chose the Jewish people as His own, He innately ordained us as the leaders of humanity. I'm going to say it again. This is my hypothesis. When Hashem chose the Jewish people as His own, to be His children, unique and apart from all the other nations, He innately, meaning within our DNA, within the DNA of our neshama, He innately ordained us as the leaders of humanity. Okay, now let's go with that for a minute and see what we get from it. I'm going to bring you my proofs of how I believe it's very clear that Hashem determined from the beginning of our nation, when He chose us, that we were meant to be the leaders in the world, and we were meant to be Or L'Goyim, the light of the nations. I want to start directly in the Chumash, and I'm going to start in Parshas Kedoshim. Okay? Sefer Vayikra, Parshas Kedoshim. The very first sentence in Parshas Kedoshim. V'yadaber Hashem el Moshe lemor. Daber el kol adat b'nei Yisrael v'amata alehem kedoshim tihiyu ki kadosh ani Hashem Elokechem. I'm going to read it in the English. Hashem spoke to Moses saying, speak to the entire assembly of the children of Israel and say to them, you shall be holy, for holy am I, Hashem your God. What are we learning from this? This sentence alone, I believe, is enough to prove my theory. But what are we learning from this sentence? What is he telling us here? This is mamish, in my opinion, as deep as it goes. You have depth all over the Torah, but you want to know who you are? You want to find out Hashem's intention for you in creating you? You want to understand what it means to be a part of the Jewish nation versus being a part of any other nation that exists on this planet? This is what it is. Kedoshim tiyu ki ani kadosh. I created you in my image. A spark of me is in you, and I am holy, and therefore you are holy. And I have chosen you to be the leaders among the nation. Ladies, every single one of us, every single Jewish woman and Jewish person, but in particular Jewish woman on this planet, has a mission, and that's it. Kedoshim tihiyu. All the rules revolving around how a woman has to keep her house, having to do with tznius, having to do with ta'aras mishpacha, having to do with how we interact in our marriages, having to do with how we need to grow our children, having to do with how we do gemilut chasadim and give tzedakah. Every single facet of it is touched by kedoshim tiyu ki ani kadosh. Hashem is telling us, I have put within you the innate ability to be a transformational leader, to represent my holiness. I created you. You are holy because I am holy. These are marching orders. This is not a nice, polite suggestion. Kedoshim tiyu is a command. And we see it right here in the Chumash, in Parshas Kedoshim, in the Sefer Bereshis, and in Sefer Vayikra. Okay, let me bring another one. Here, the next one, in Pirkei Avos. Hold on, let me get my sources in order here. Pirkei Avos, the introduction of Pirkei Avos. At the very beginning, it says, Kol Yisrael yesh lehem chelek le'olam haba. שנאמר ועמך כולם צדיקים לעולם ירשו על הארץ נצר מתאי מעשה ידי להתפאר. All Israel has a share in the world to come, as it is said, and your people are all righteous. They will inherit the land forever. They are a branch of my planting, the work of my hands, where I am glorified. Again, Hashem telling us, you are the leaders of my creation. You all have a chelek in olam haba. My expectation of you is that you will lead. Because I created you, I know what I made you for, and I know what you are capable of. Kedoshim tiyu vekol Yisrael yesh lahem chelek be'olam haba. Because I created you. Because you are the works of my plantings. Pirkei Avos, I'm not making it up. Sources, direct from Hashem. Okay, direct from our sages. Next one. This is coming out of Parshas. This is, I want to go here, on this one. Now we're in Yeshayahu. This is Nevi'im now. Okay? In Nevi'im, chapter 42, Pasuk Vav. Ani Hashem karaticha b'tzedek ve'achzek b'yadcha ve'artzecha ve'etenecha livrit am la'or goyim. I, the Lord, have called thee. I have called thee in righteousness, and have taken hold of thy hand, and have kept thee, and set thee for the covenant of the people, for a light of the nations. So now we have Kedoshim Tiyu, we have L'kol Yisrael yesh lahem chelek le'olam haba, because you are the work of my hand. And we have here, I have called to you in righteousness. And I have set thee forth as a covenant with my people, that you are to be a light among the nations. Lady, we are inherently and divinely created to be the leaders. Am Yisrael are meant to be the leaders of the world, and the Nashim, the Manos Yisrael, right, are designed to be the holiest of holy in the leadership of Am Yisrael, by leading ourselves, by being transformational leaders, by being transformational for ourselves, for our homes, and within our community. Okay, I'm going to bring one other source from Rav Avigdor Miller's Vayikra. It says, Banim atem laHashem Elokechem. I am the son of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's in the Chumash that Hashem built us to be His sons and His daughters. We are uniquely His, and we fill a unique role on a very, very large scale. However, and here's the catch, all of these things are good and fine. Hashem created us with a purpose. He made us holy. He took us as a hafrashah from all the rest of the nations. He assigned us to be inherently transformational leaders, both for ourselves, for our Am Yisrael, and for the world, to be Or Lagoyim. But, as Rav Avigdor Miller dictates and says, we have to earn it. How do we know? It says, Al sadeh ish atzel avrati. I passed the field of a lazy man. And Shlomo Melech says, what was growing there? Hine kasa panav charulim. Thorns and brambles. Shlomo Melech says, yes, we are the children of Am Yisrael. We are unique and special and specially equipped to be a holy nation. However, you have to earn it. You have to work for it. That if you do not plow the field, and what is the field? Your spiritual growth, your spiritual self. If you do not do the heavy lifting, if you do not grab your role and run with it as much as you can, day by day, month by month, year by year, your field will be filled with thorns and brambles. I think brambles are those big dust rolls that go through the deserts. Right? Your field will not be full of harvest if you don't work for it, if you don't acknowledge your role as a leader and throw yourself into it and learn and do as much as you possibly can. So we see from this, we see that it is, in essence, our birthright as Jews, our birthright as Jewish women, to be leaders, that we have to take this role by the hand. We have to begin to not only understand this concept of a bas melech as a sweet, cute term that we use to refer to Jewish ladies. We have to understand we are the daughter, not of a king, of the king. We are bas melech. We have inherently inherited the role of transformational leader. And now, at the petach of Mashiach, every single one of us needs to be, to the degree that we can, stepping into that role and owning that role and thinking of it as, I am legitimately a leader. I am a bas melech. I am the daughter of Hashem, and I have a role to fulfill. And by me becoming the greatest version of myself, I am going to bring Mashiach. I am going to hasten the Mashiach. I'm going to build myself and my family. And God willing, we're going to bring HaShem's glory into this world. We're going to invite the Shekhinah into our home. We're going to say with our words to the Shekhinah, my home is your home. I want you to be with me. Ima, I want you to be with me. I want you to dwell with me. I want you to feel that you can always be resting on my shoulders, that I will help carry the burden and the weight of your sorrow and your sadness, that Am Yisrael is in Galus. Part of being a transformational leader is being able to feel on a deep and fundamental level what other people are going through. But I am encouraging you to take that even to a higher level and to really feel, what is the Shekhinah going through? She has nowhere to dwell. The only place she has to dwell in this world is in our homes and with us. And we have to create that space for her by stepping in as a transformational leader and doing whatever we can to lead ourselves and our families and to grow ourselves. And Hashem is promising that the result of that is Nisim and Niflaos. Does that make sense? I know 100% that if Hashem put you in front of me, if you are in this class live or you are hearing this recording, it is not by accident. It means that Hashem is calling you to active duty. And that He is asking that you take the things that we're discussing here very, very seriously and very much to heart. And to really do a thorough examination, especially before Rosh Hashanah, to say, Hashem, I hear you. I hear your messages through Mia. I'm taking them to heart. And I'm going to really think about what I'm going to change in the new year. I'm going to think about how I can bring the Shekhinah closer to me and closer to my home and help give her more spaces to dwell until, Be'ezat Hashem, your Beis HaMikdash is rebuilt for hopefully the final time. Till the end of days.
Can I ask a question?
Please.
Last week you were talking about controlling, like about thoughts and stuff.
Yes.
About thoughts, negative and stuff. So I have a question in regard to that. I wanted to know, what should one do if they have like they're physically here, but then mentally they're not. Like they're thinking a lot. Like their mind is moving like 1,000 miles. And like they're thinking about like today, tomorrow, what's gonna be, what's not gonna be. Like it's like going on, like nonstop.
Okay.
And like you don't know what to do.
Okay, it's an excellent question, but I'm going to give you a really, really simple answer. So a part of how the Yetzer Hara works is to distract us. Because in order for us to achieve what we need to achieve, we need to have laser-focused vision. All of these things that we're discussing last week and this week require laser-focused vision, dedication, and commitment. And so the Yetzer Hara is going to come, and he's going to throw all kinds of things at you from your work, and somebody's going to have a tantrum, and there's going to be this thing that's demanding your attention, and it's going to be your mind going and going and going and going. And I'm going to encourage you to go back to the first Shiur and listen to it again. If you want, you can forward it to the end. But listen where I talk about the power of silence. The power of getting quiet. The power of understanding that you have to create space in order to have clear thought. A good tactic, if you have a lot on your mind and your mind is racing and you're having a hard time getting centered and grounded, a good tactic is to get a sheet of paper and every single thing that's coming into your mind, write it down. In my experience as a therapist, Working with people like that, when somebody writes something down, it like diffuses the power of it in the mind. It's like you're trying to remember a grocery list. But the second you start putting the grocery list down on paper and you get all those things out of your mind, the mind calms down and quiets. So that's a good tactic. This morning, I had a huge blow up in my house. They're big drama and emergencies about work. My husband and I run a construction company and blah, 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 blah. I didn't buy it for 1 minute. I knew it was happening because this shiur had the power to reveal a tremendous amount of light. And the Yetzer Hara wanted to do everything he could to distract me and take me out of my zone of preparation for this shiur, and I was not having it. And so what did I tell you guys last week? When the Yetzer Hara is on your back, and he will be because that's his job. And by the way, don't think for 1 second he is not a very adept leader. He is the leader of all the malachim that are coming to take you away from your job, to take you away from revealing the light that you're meant to reveal, to take you away from being a transformational leader. Don't let him. Recognize his nonsense when it's happening. And this morning, I literally looked at my husband and I said, thank you. You are, at least I am identifying you as the tool of the Yetzer Hara right now that's trying to pull me away from my shiur. And the second I said that, he said, you're right. Have a good shiur. And he left. You understand? Just because we can't see him doesn't mean he is not acting upon us constantly to try to prevent us from revealing everything we're meant to reveal. Don't tolerate it. So to answer your question, what I would say is that you need to go back to the first shiur, practice getting into silence, bring your journal with you, make lists, get all that crazy stuff out of your head to make space for thinking about what you really need to be thinking about. And then understand that you have an opponent. You have somebody. Listen, again, I've talked about this many times in my lectures. I want to put a perspective on the Yetzer Hara. I believe we have to have a very healthy respect for him. Why? Because he is the master of his craft. You will never be ahead of him. He is always 10 steps ahead. Right? That's his job. His job is to know what to throw at you and when, what button to push, to try to prevent you from accomplishing. However, that doesn't mean that in the moment you can't be smart enough and think and say, wait a minute, hold up. I'm about to have something really good happen in my life, Be'ezat Hashem, and I'm getting a test right now. Hashem sent him to test me. I need to pass this test so I can move past him. So thank him and move on. But understand, he doesn't sleep. He doesn't sleep. He doesn't need to sleep. He's all day long scheming about how he can trip you up. So thank him for that, because in the end, Gamzu Latova, and you'll rise to the occasion and succeed, Be'ezat Hashem. So that was a little bit of a sidebar, but it was a great, great question, and I hope that was helpful what I answered. Okay? So going back to where we left, being a transformational leader as a Jewish woman, as I've brought from the Tanakh, from Pirkei Avos, right? From Yeshayahu, from Nevi'im, it is our birthright. It is inherent in the DNA that Hashem created us with. And we have an obligation to live up to our roles and to be Kedoshim to you. Okay? So if we take everything and we apply it to our role as a Jewish woman, as a Bas Melech, who's charged with leading our lives and our homes in the derech of Hashem's Torah, each one of us is equally as powerful as any king or any world leader. Because we have the power in our home, and we have the power over our own minds. And we're meant to take this and put it into practice. So ladies, as we enter into Rosh Hashanah, my greatest encouragement to you is to really view yourself in this role as a leader. Make an assessment and an evaluation of where you can further step into this role to support HaKadosh Baruch Hu in his mission for us and vision for us as a Jewish nation, to help hastening the bringing of Mashiach, and to ask yourself, and this was a part of the homework that I was going to give, to ask yourself, where are you leading? Where are you not leading? Where you need to be leading? And I'm going to even challenge you this year to daven for something that you may have never davened for before. And I'm going to read it as I wrote it when I was writing the Shiur. As you enter into Rosh Hashanah, of course you're going to daven for HaShem's forgiveness. You're going to daven for all of your needs to be fulfilled. But I am going to urge you to daven for one additional thing that you may have never davened for before. And that is to daven that Hashem grants you the courage, the drive, the determination, and the clarity to be the leader that you are destined to be for Am Yisrael. And that will look like different things for different women. But make no mistake, it is each of our destiny as a Jewish woman to lead in a unique capacity that Hashem has bestowed upon us. That responsibility and that gift. And so make a healthy cheshbon, a healthy assessment of where you're holding in your capacity as leader, and do everything you can in your power to make a commitment to Hashem that you are going to unearth it and step into it and move into this next year in your greatest capacity as a transformational leader, as a Jewish woman. And Hashem should bless us all that we have that courage and that drive and that dedication and that clarity on exactly how to do it. But we do know that we have to do it. And we do know that Hashem designed us expressly for that purpose. So if you want homework, this would be the homework that I would give you. To really examine, where are you leading? Where do you need to step in to lead? And how can you act as a leader to be in the highest levels of service to Hashem? Okay? All right. Ladies, that is the shiur that I had for you that is dealing with this subject of the essence of leadership and Hashem's expectations of us. I hope that I've walked it through for you in a way that makes sense. If not, I welcome questions, and you're welcome to email me, and you're welcome to go back and listen to the recording. I try to get it up as quickly as I can. I want to give a couple of announcements. I'm going to be speaking at a Shabbaton on Shabbos Shuvah. So that's the Shabbat between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. It's near LAX here in Los Angeles. I'll be speaking to the ladies there. There's other Rabbanim that will be speaking to everybody and for the men. But I'll be speaking exclusively to the ladies. If you're interested in that, let me know and I can connect you with the person who's running it. And again, I encourage you to go onto the Google Drive after I get all this stuff up and download the notes and review it. And remember to take a look at the dates. So next week on the 28th, B'ezrat Hashem, will be a brief shiur on Shabbos Shuvah, specifically just how to make the most of that Shabbat and the special nature of that Shabbat. And then we have 2 weeks break, so not on the 5th and not on the 12th. B'ezrat Hashem, by then Mashiach will have come and we'll have our marching orders on where to go and what to do. B'ezrat Hashem. But if things are the same way as they are now, B'ezrat Hashem will resume on the 19th together. I wish you all a Shana Tova. It should be a year of tremendous health, tremendous wealth, tremendous wisdom, tremendous Sata Dishmaya, tremendous ability in stepping into your role as a Jewish woman and as a Jewish leader. And I am thankful to Hashem, to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, for giving me this opportunity to work with all of you, because working with you helps me grow as well as an individual. And I feel very, very blessed for that. So, Shana Tova and Gemar Chatima Tova. And I look forward to being in touch with you all next week, B'ezrat Hashem, and getting to hear miracle stories about your realizations and your transformational experience in davening as you move through Rosh Hashanah this year. Okay? So I'm wishing everyone a wonderful day. You're welcome to unmute. If you have any last comments or questions, I'll open it up to you. Yeah, Julia has a quick question.
I hope it's not too silly. In all the sources, we're being addressed as part of the Jewish people, so our soul is Jewish, thus it applies to us. Is there anywhere where it specifically calls out the women themselves?
as being...
As having this same level of purpose and
So one of the things we learn throughout Jewish history, and I wish off the top of my head I could quote specific sources, but I can bring you examples, right? Is that there are very few women actually listed in the Torah, right? In comparison to all the men that are listed. But if you want to do an exercise that is tremendously inspirational, is go back and look at the various women that are discussed in Tanakh and in the Chumash. In particular, the schus of Yetziat Mitzrayim was on the women. Why? Because the women did not participate in the Egel. And additionally, the women gave their jewelry to help to build the Beis Hamikdash. And it's written in multiple places that it's in the schut of the women, of the Nashim, that Hashem ultimately took all of us out of Egypt. So that's a pivotal and foundational example of how women were called into the role and rose to that role. And you can look at all of the ima'os and the challenges that they faced and how they rose to their occasion as leaders within their own homes, and how they led with their children, and how they were leading within their communities and the challenges that they faced therein. You can look at Ruth and how she refused to take no for an answer, that she insisted that she was going to go and follow in the footsteps and become a servant of Hashem. And from her, we have the lineage of all the kings, and Mashiach. From her, right? So throughout history, throughout Jewish history, women have always filled the role of being pivotal and influential and influencing their men. Look. When there was the decree that the Israelites should stop having children because Paro was going to be killing all the boys, it was Miriam, no, that came and said, yeah, but he's only killing the boys, but from your decree you're stopping everybody from being born. And as a result of her, that was changed. So throughout our history, Hashem has provided us with examples. Yeah, here I'm reading here. There is a midrash that there were hundreds of thousands of women prophets. Yes, in our history, correct. Hashem called out to the women first because Kabbalat Torah, because so much depends on us. It's right. Also, if you look at that's a great point about the Nevi'im. There were many prophetesses, right? Neviot. And there were certain times where Rebbeim or male leaders would go to a female Nevi'ah as opposed to a male, because how the Navi processes the Nevuah can influence the Nevuah. And so when they needed a Nevuah to be done with Rachamim, they would go to a woman, because her Rachamim, the nature of a woman to have more Rachamim, would lighten any judgments that might come with that Nevuah. Rachamim is, what's the word for Rachamim? What's Rachamim? Kindness, it's not to rachem, to go easy, to be easy with, to be more kind and gentle. That's not the right definition. I'm forgetting exactly the definition of Rachamim. But like a gentler, softer way. Like we want Hashem to bring Mashiach with Rachamim. Did someone say something? Merciful, thank you. Merciful, exactly. Compassionate, merciful. Thank you. Yes, I was losing the word. Yes, and it says the ultimate redemption, the one that's coming, the one that we're on the petach of that redemption, will also be in the schus of the women. This is honestly no joke. Why I'm doing this? No joke, because I'm telling you, Mashiach's here. He's here. He's waiting to reveal himself. And I know that the more of us that step into our role as leaders in the Jewish nation, the faster he's coming. The faster he's coming. Because it will be, I believe, in the schus of our work as leaders of Jewish female leaders in our nation, that is going to, enhance and merit the bringing of Mashiach. The same way we were before, only on a much bigger level. So ladies, like I said, we're all on active duty. We have a mission. We have an obligation, and we have to step into this role in the greatest way possible, and I know that we will. B'ezrat Hashem, we will continue in our work together. Everyone should have a Shabbat Shalom and a Shana Tova, and I look forward to seeing you all B'ezrat Hashem next week, where we'll discuss Shabbos Shuvah. If you have any questions or anything, feel free to email me. Wishing everyone a Shana Tova. Rav Hirsch says that the moral level of any society can be determined by the level of appreciation for the mothers. Amazing. Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you all. Thank you all for sharing, for your comments, and for just taking the time out of your busy schedules to attend. Hashem should bless you all. It should be a blessed week. Be well, everyone. Thank you. Thank you so much. Be well. And invite people. Let other women come and join on our journey with us, okay? Invite everyone. Okay. Hatzlacha Rabba. Shana Tova, and Shabbat Shalom. Thank you.
Shabbat Shalom. Recording stopped.
Okay, we're out.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I appreciate it so much.